I have over 300 hours in God of War Ragnarok and finished the game 3 times so far. And to be honest, most of the time I spent playing the game was me crafting builds and fighting Gna or the Berserker King. So when it comes to my knowledge of the combat design and enemy patterns, I am quite proficient and I can go as far as defeating any enemy in the game without getting hit, simply because of how much time I spent fighting against them. That's not to say that I can never die. I actually, oh no. Don't get me wrong, I die a lot. I die way more than I can count. Sometimes I die for hours before I can make a single build work. But here's the thing, when you die in this game, 8 times out of 10, it isn't actually on you. I'm going to elaborate over the course of this video as to why I think God of War Ragnarok combat as a whole is flawed and at times quite frustrating. So, New Game Plus gave us the ability to replay the game all over again with the gear we previously unlocked. Therefore, no matter the difficulty you choose, your future NG Plus runs are bound to be easier, even on the given God of War difficulty, which is the hardest one. And unfortunately, Ragnarok uses the cheapest tricks in the book when it comes to difficulty, increasing the number of enemies you will have to face or simply extending a boss's health bar just for the sake of doing so. And on top of that, they also made the choice to incorporate, probably in my opinion, the worst design I've ever seen in a video game, aka the Rain Away no Jutsu. I have played over 1,000 video games in my lifetime, so believe me when I tell you that the bosses in the game run away so much more than any other video game. And the Berserkers especially, they are so annoying to deal with for that exact reason. If you were to ask me who the strongest opponent is, I would say the Berserker King. Not because he hits hard or has a beefy health bar, but mostly because he is so annoying to go against, running away every so often while only getting close once in a while, allowing you to hit him once or twice before resuming his running around. It is so annoying to just wait there waiting for your turn to come, and when that turn does come, you won't be able to do much before he dips again. And the longer the fight goes on, the higher your chances of getting caught off guard or making a mistake. That's why I don't think that the bosses in this game are challenging. I think all those encounters are difficult, mostly because the combat design itself is flawed. It is almost impossible to stagger bosses in Ragnarok unless you use certain skills, runics or even weapons. The Dauntless Shield Strike, for example, can stagger enemies sometimes, and some other times, well, it won't. The runic attacks are your best bet if you want to pin an enemy down and deal some serious damage, since they stagger for quite some time. Sometimes. The devs came up with a system to prevent you from abusing the runic attacks or deal too much damage to an enemy too fast. So whenever you spam 3 runic or relic attacks in a row, the enemy is going to gain a protective shield, which makes you unable to stagger them unless you use your rage. And though your Spartan rage has been significantly nerfed from the way it used to be, it is still your get out of jail card in case you miss the parry or overcommit it. But the kind of damage you will deal with your rage is the equivalent of being stabbed with a feather. It is laughable. So chances are, unless you are dealing with a low class enemy, your rage should exclusively be saved for defensive purposes. Now, remember when I said that the game prevents you from abusing runic attacks? I think that's actually a good thing, since it forces you to fight differently and always be on your guard, since you'll probably die if you commit to runic while the boss cannot be staggered. I like the fact that the game has established the rules like that one. What I don't like is when the game decides to ignore those rules simply because the devs were not happy with the way people destroyed, not me, some people destroyed the strongest opponents in the game within seconds. You've probably seen those crazy builds. Usually they involve the Berserker chest armor. Those builds allow you to beat any boss within seconds. Well, clearly they did not appreciate that, so they retaliated in New Game Plus. That was expected. I mean, what do you expect? Now, I would have liked that they answered by adding more layers to the bosses or giving them the ability to mix you up in an attempt to, I don't know, to confuse you, to I was expecting something different. I wanted to not know what was coming next. I wanted the bosses to generally be a menace. Instead, they implemented the anti-bullying measures, some anti-bullying measures, which are the pinnacle of frustration. The first new feature is that the bosses will now spawn with the runic shield right off the bat. That one is actually fine. It doesn't really work since you can still defeat the bosses within seconds, even with the shield, but there is that one berserker which makes your whole life a lot more difficult simply because somebody thought it was a good idea to give the minions he summons a shield as well. So, now, you have to deal with multiple enemies. You can't stagger while the berserker you desperately are trying to defeat runs around shooting at you. What an amazing boss fight! I was having so much fun. I gotta say, I grew up playing God of War, and it saddens me, it pains me to say this, but Kratos does not feel like Kratos anymore. He feels like just another regular dude, with his shield up, waiting for an opportunity to strike down a random drugger. Again, a random drugger. Not Zeus, not Baldur, no, a random enemy is giving our beloved God of War a hard time. This is just sad. This is so sad. But hey, rest assured, I actually came up with the perfect build to deal with that berserker in particular, prioritizing health over damage, and it worked like a charm. That said, I can't possibly imagine the pain of someone trying to fight against this guy as a level 1 or even underleveled. That must be true hell. And in case it wasn't clear earlier, I am not a fan of adding more enemies to an encounter just for the sake of making it more challenging. I truly believe there is a fine line between challenging and tedious, and all too often that line becomes inexistent in Ragnarok. I have talked before about how Shifu, an indie game, was able to subdue expectations and come up with what, in my opinion, is the best hard mode in a long time. The master difficulty is exactly the same as any other difficulty. The amount of enemies you're going to face is exactly the same, and the three main differences are the damage you receive, the aggressiveness of certain enemies, and the bosses having new moves, allowing them to mix you up more often. But nothing is taken away from you. The game feels familiar even though the game is challenging. That's not the case in Ragnarok since they take away so much from you for no reason other than to unnecessarily extend the duration of the fight. Let's talk about Gna for a moment. The problem with Gna in New Game Plus is that she can perform her for Asgard leap attack at any given moment, and I mean any given moment. Whenever she feels like you are playing too well, she will just leap away and waste your time. And forget about the runic shield. After using multiple attacks and dealing too much damage, she will perform her attacks no matter what, and guess what? There is nothing you can do about it since she also gets a shield while doing so. And even your already nerfed rage may not be able to stagger her out of some animations. I guess they finally did it. They made the one defining feature of Kratos completely useless. Yikes. It gets worse though. Gna always could perform two types of attacks which could be interrupted by using the proper magical arrows, Sigil or Sonic. And you used to be able to punish her while she was preparing for those attacks, but hey, they did not like that, so now whenever she wants to perform those attacks, she will throw undodgeable shards. You heard that right. Those shards can neither be parried or dodged. You have to sit tight with your shield up like a good little boy and block while waiting for your turn. Why? Why did they keep doing this to my boy? Forcing people to just sit there and block is so lame and just breaks the flow of combat. They did the same thing with every single berserker. Not only did those guys get a degree in running away from their troubles, but the projectiles you could parry before can only be blocked or dodged now. I mean, some can still be dodged, but some others, you still have to sit tight and block with your shield up. Why? Why would you take that away? Oh, and remember how you could avoid those leaping attacks? and punish the berserkers whenever they will land. yeah, you can't do that anymore since they leave a pool of poison whenever they land. And in case they perform 3 leaping attacks in a row, you guessed it, you just run around until the game decides that it is your turn again. Are you having fun yet? Actually, that's a very good question. Are you having fun? I suspect the main reason why people were found of those overpowered builds in the first place is because they didn't want to deal with those bosses for the most part. Let's take for example the fight against the trio, Berserkers. The game is clearly not designed to accommodate a 3v1 type of boss fight. And I say 3v1 because, let's be honest here, your companion is useless. And actually, hold on, let's talk about Freya for a moment. What the hell happened to her? 1 minute she's almighty, going toe-to-toe against Kratos, unleashing every agony imaginable, and and then she joins us and she forgets how to fight? Hello? I would rather have Ingrid, the sword, as a companion than having Freya, since the sword doesn't actually get in the way or forgets that it is a damn sword. If it wasn't for her poison runic summon, I would have preferred, honestly, I would have preferred a feature, an accessibility feature, to just disable your companion. I think I would have liked that. So, going back to that hellish 3v1, Ragnarok is not designed to handle such an encounter, especially against enemies which are so mobile. Increase the field of view by 300 and now we're talking, but the camera is so close to your butt that 8 times out of 10 you get hit because you never even saw the attack coming. How are you supposed to dodge something you can't see? Do you take on the big sister first, hoping that the other 2 will just be gentle? Or do you go for little ones, hoping the big ones will give you a break? Now, have a third option. Kill all 3 of them at once and then take a well-deserved shower. I cooked the perfect build and never looked back because I was not having fun and I did not want to deal with the artificial difficulty any longer. I have never seen a game which breaks the flow of combat that often and for that long. And you learned some new combos and unique cancels. Great. Now watch this guy hides up there. He's going to hide up there while you run around trying not to die. And look, they throw 2 unblockables projectiles now. Yay! I was really excited about New Game Plus, and to be fair, Santa Monica did deliver on the additional content. You get new armors, new levels, and new enchantments to play with, and this is a big plus. This is big. The update is free, completely free. Still, I was expecting something more from the bosses. I was hoping they may just tweak some things here and there, and to be honest, the bosses just feel exactly the same, except now they are more annoying and time consuming, which I guess was the goal all along. And listen, if you intend to make a boss which bypasses your own rules and make using runic attacks, for example, a death sentence, might as well just go ahead and remove those abilities from the game entirely. I think this game takes a lot away from Kratos. I don't even want to talk about the absence of a bare-headed skill tree, or the fact that some of your weapon skills are borderline ineffective against some enemies simply because it would have been too fun to juggle the Berserker King of Gna. And fun, well, we don't do that here. I've probably fought Gna or the Berserker King 300 to 400 times, and I gotta be honest, it wasn't all that fun. The one build which always is fun to use is the leg build, because it is so fun whenever you get back your relic and you can spam Skafnan and prevent the boss from doing anything. That's fun. And there's the one thing I tried to do once, like trying to defeat Gna without hitting her and simply dodging, or trying to fight the king by simply parrying. Those were fun, but going against those bosses, usually it's more frustration than fun. And keep in mind that sometimes, even if you overwhelm the bosses with both Skafnan and a runic summon or runic attack, won't prevent them from magically teleporting 10 miles away, which is so inconsistent. It is so inconsistent. I don't know, they're supposed to, the shield isn't even on, but they're able to move. How? Again, this is clearly a case of the game ignoring its own rules. They shouldn't be able to move unless they can be staggered, but they can move even though they shouldn't be able to. Anyway, anyway, I've had my lot of fun with the game, but overall it's been a very frustrating experience. I recently started playing. I completed Star Wars Jedi Survivor for the second time now, and I have a lot to say when it comes to that game too, because oh boy, oh boy, there's a lot to say. But anyway, that's the end of the video. This was not a rant video. It was just me speaking my mind, because I was going yet again against those bosses, and I was like, dude, this is not fun. This is not fun to just wait for my turn, and like, no, it just sucks. Anyway, let me know what you think about the design, the way they made the bosses in the game, and especially if you played the older God of War games. I would like to know what you think about the main differences now. Like, do you like it? I feel like the biggest nerf, the Spartan rage nerf it is terrible, and it is so terrible. Anyway, I'm Jizo, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.